Hi everyone, welcome to the Jansen Art Studio. Welcome to our Art of Painting series, continuing education program where I'm showing you some of the techniques that it takes to be a more independent artist, okay? It builds upon some of the techniques that I've been teaching you for the last, 5 years or so into the Paint It Simply program where we use limited palettes. With the Art of Painting, we go another step forward. We basically designed to give you more knowledge as to techniques and pigments and color, specifically color, and start choosing some of your own pigments. So I've been, in the last couple of years, launching a couple of series, especially into these books here, and I just brought a couple of them into the studio here to show you. The Casual Elegance, the Art of Painting Casual Elegance. This is a big book. This 160 some pages here, and it goes into painting casual painting techniques, which is what I use a lot of in the Art of Painting series. And then my entire program, which is 11 books long right now, slated for it, it's the Art of Painting's Mastering Rose Technique. Now in each one of these, what I do is I analyze some of the different techniques. So each book focuses in on a technique that I use in the painting of roses and floral compositions. And the books are a little bit smaller. They a little faster and give me a little bit more, not as bright of a gray, but it'll make just beautiful. But see, you can see it can gray easier, and it kills that diox just a little bit more. Here has slightly of purple cast to it, and this one doesn't. It has just a little bit more of a total gray cast to it. Now, you know, how much you see this all depends on your TV and your monitor and stuff, but you can get very close to each other here. But I can get this a little bit, you know, even more so towards my yellows, and leave this very powerful without, and very warm without being very, very bright to it. So I can get these really a long gray set of grays here of through here by using this yellow oxide here. Will give me some very, very beautiful grays here down this way. Now this is, you know, yellow oxide, like when a paint company makes a warm white. What is warm white? We just take a white and we warm it, and the pigment that we choose to warm it with is yellow oxide. And why yellow oxide? Because it's more toned than like the Hansa yellow. Okay, so being more into landscapes, which is one of the things that we'll be doing with this series as well, using the Diox purple in there. It's beautiful into the make those purple mountains majesty. It really does put those back in there. But you'll see that as I go here to gray, the gray of this comes out a little bit more to the reddish side. So it's not as much as a gray. It comes in, it makes beautiful colors here, beautiful tones, but slightly on the reddish side, and that's because the burnt sienna is more on that reddish or oranger side. But it's beautiful to use inside the compositions on stuff that's further back, or any kind of grays or reds that you might be, if you have flowers that are white with pink tones or reddish tones. This makes beautiful grays further down inside those deeper receding tones. It's coming out that way. Maybe that's a little too severe. We'll rock that maybe this way here, so that center will go there. So we'll go boom, 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 fold down. So we'll put another one right in here, and then maybe a smaller little bud or a smaller little bud right over there. So we'll put this arching of the roses here like this, okay? And so this one comes over here. Now let's just put a little dark section right in there. That's where that center of that rose is going to be. This one we'll put right into this area in here, okay? This one we know is going to go right into here, opening up this way here like that. So we have that kind of taken care of. And then rosebuds down here, which really don't have a center of it. We'll just put a couple right down there. It's just an idea. So my idea is this arch kind of coming this way and falling down and falling around like that. We'll add in some other leaves and all that kind of stuff, but we don't need to worry about that yet. Let's come out and let's just refine a few little things. Let's put in the idea of a larger petal, like right here. So we'll drop that over here and just pick up a big old dollop. You can see how thick my white is. Big old dollop of our white. We'll just use the end of the brush there, and we'll set that down there like that. And we'll just grab some of this. Isn't that a beautiful coloring here? And I'll leave it slightly on the dark side here for just a second. And we're going to come right back down through here with that blue right in there like that. Now I know that's very powerful. I know that's very powerful, but we'll soften that out. And then I can pull this back off just a bit, but I want some of it to go into the flower here. Now this is the casual part of the painting that I love. The halftone technique is going to give us a more refined look. And the casual part of the painting, which is where I like to start out with, is just let these color tones play back and forth over each other. Don't try to go around there and paint around that flower and not lose your design. That design is just the idea, right? Okay, so don't play back and forth and lose that. Now, towards some of those outside colors, and again, watching my green up against my gray here. What's the purpose? Well, we want to head towards this background so we keep the contrast here. So I know out here, I'm going to want to have some of these softer greens appearing right out up through here. And let's even get some of these soft blue. Let's add a little blue to that in there. Get some of these softer little blue greens. Watch that color right here against the edge of your board, okay? Because you'll be able to see it. Then you know it's going to soften that out, and that's going to give you a softer look out there. Then you can take that paper towel, run that through there like that, and that softens that up even more like that, okay? Nice center contrast that's going to be on that rose there. I might take a bit of that right back out in here like this and reestablish that shadow there of the bowl. I always say in everything, all of it, never lose the bowl of the rose. It's the bowl of the rose that keeps you oriented, to the rose itself. Let's take some of this and slide some of that right in there. So there's that bowl of the rose. We can pull out like this to the reaching petals, slide your finger curving like this to establish that bowl of the rose. So there's that bowl, boom, and we can pull out a bit for some of that movement there. It is quite easy to adjust this. So we'll come back in, let's warm that just a bit. Whenever I'm going towards the light, I always add a little bit more yellow. So let's just get that edge in right here, pulling this in and out of that rose that way. And that makes a pretty little edge. And we can get a little more light to that if we want to really kind of pop that up and pull that in there. And that works pretty well for that one. Let's drop in. How much drawing you do. Now, there's all kinds of techniques that I use in the Master and Rose series, but we're heading into some half-toning and stuff too. So what I want to do is really kind of come in and start putting on the shapes or the locations of the petals, and then we'll adjust them into position with halftones, and I'll show you that. So I'm going to take a little light edge right here like this, and I know I sketched it earlier with the dark, but we play the light now, and I will just drop that in. Right in there like that. There's the light edge. And maybe we'll have another little petal that'll come into here, right into this area. Sometimes I add them in early like this. Sometimes I'll do it later too. So I use that technique a lot. So here let's put a little bit more of the found edge right here. A nice edge to that. Found edge means you have a nice sharp edge. I'll push that and pull that in and out, just touch like that, let that fade. And then I can build a little bit more if I want to have more color and start my halftone process. So I'll build a little bit more, I want a little more color there. And then start my halftone process here of my grays. Here like this, nice halftone there. We'll go one more intermediate between the two, right in there. We'll go down to that gray right there, and then we'll head a little bit further down to that shadow right there, that shadowy color there. And them here and applying some techniques, so you can do that as well. Once you understand them and understand the light, you can do that. Let's push a little bit more light and warm right out here onto this side. And we know that this is the shadow side, but this is parts of these petals here are going to come out of the shadow towards us. because if this was a shadow, part of this is, say light's coming here, it's going to hit along the top here, it's going to skip right down to here, and then it's going to hit the edges of these petals out here, light again, and then go immediately back down into shadows here. So you can come in and put some of this light right down into some of these areas here on these roses, and we can come back into those and add some, like I might have a kiss of a little bit of a light right there, and see that picks up a little light and picks up the light right up in here as well. You know, I'm not going to put in, and generally onto the flower painting and stuff, unless I'm doing a floral setup, I don't put the cast shadows in, because you would have cast shadows of these petals and stuff, and I usually don't put those in. I just paint a beautiful painting with some overall global light, as opposed to putting in perfect cast shadows and stuff. You can. I've done it before several times, several paintings, but I generally don't do that between that other petal, so I can push a little darker tone right here and just use that and the edge of that here to define that petal just a touch, lift it off in a few areas like that. And then right between those two, leave that shadow right where it is, but then right between those two, come in with a halftone and just soften that right there, and you'll get rid of that line. And then we'll head a little bit lighter right there to soften that one there. And you'll take out and soften out some of that line, so you'll still see that little light edge, and then I can come back and define that light edge one more time right in there like that. Drop that other little petal in, right in there like that. Okay, so there's all kinds of ways here. Let's get this nice light edge here, because that's right up by the light. Let's soften that back part of that, maybe even so it's not quite so dark back there, because that's up by our light there. And get a bit more of our white right here coming in there. That's nice. Maybe just little touches, little edges of it right like that, pull in, and that will make a nice edge there. Let's put a half tone back down onto this, and I like that lighter yellow coming on that edge of that as well, so let's lighten that up, get that lighter yellow warm tone there. Just do real casual little, just the edge of the brush, and let the color come off, and maybe we'll pull some down like this. Okay, little movements of these stems, you know, lines out like this. I like this kind of, oh, you didn't see that, did you? I'm sorry. And so just pulling some of the curved lines down out like this, and little movements of that, and very casual movements to these leaves here like that. And I like that, so they're not specific, they're not perfect. Let's drop one right in here, and I still have some nice wet what is that, yellow green, so this will look great. So I'll take it like this, okay? So it's not absolutely perfect. We'll just drop some out, we'll drop some back like this, just destroy the edge there just a touch. We can push the edge more refined or found edges like we did on the rose petals themselves a little bit. After we do that, we could add some, here's some beautiful yellow oxide and burnt sienna. We can add a bit of that to one side of that leaf there. Here's just all movement. That's all we want to do, is just push some nice oval movement here that will kind of look like a rose, and we'll have some movement here to it. It'll kind of look like a rose, but it's not painted really super, so it's just going to set into the back there. And let's even paint a little bit more of a grayed one. Just a little bit of color back here. One back in here as well. Just some color. I'm going to go to a bigger brush, and I'm going to go to a bigger brush just because that little one there is giving too much movement. If I want it to go in the back, I've got to soften that movement. So I'll go to a little bigger brush so I can make some strokes and I don't get quite as much movement here. Blue diox, so it's a blue-violet color. And that's real pretty right in there. That's a beautiful color. And because I have so much of it up and through here, I want to use it kind of as an accent now through the painting. So we'll grab some. We'll just put a little bit of it into the brush here. And we'll vary it with different amounts of white and stuff. But we'll just come in through some of these areas here and touch into like the leaf that I touched there. Little accent. So you get a heavy area of green. Just touch a little bit of that into those areas there. Like we can make it as a little accent right there on that leaf right there. It's a nice little difference there. Like that. Some of that right in there. We can hit the little accents of that. Let's lighten that up just a touch and hit a few of those. Some of it right down in here a little. And again, it carries that, but look how it lightens up the design too, because it's carrying some of the color, especially from the background, back into my design again. And into defining my the front part of my roses here again one more time. So I'm going to take a little bit of extender here and we'll give it another squirt full of my extender. My extender gets dirty over the time and everything like that. I don't ever worry about it. Now, my roses here, again, they're not dry, but they're a little bit tight. They've tacked up just a bit, and that's what I want it to do. I'm going to take and just rinse out some of that purple out of, not all of it. I don't need to worry about all of it, because the colors are so heavy pigmented. Just rinse it out a little bit. I'll put a little extender into it and just tap that onto my palette here just a bit. And because I want to use this just to lightly go over some of this and just put a little bit onto that extender, onto that lightly, because it is tight. And I want to do a little bit of warm glazing. I'm going to take some yellow oxide and a little bit of Hansa here. And I'll thin that out just a touch. And I want to come in and I want to warm this part of the painting just a bit here. Right into here. So I get this beautiful warm tone coming right into that part of the painting right in there. It just warms that flower right up. Okay. And sits over, and you see, sits over that, see that beautiful tone, and it sits over some of those violets and stuff. Just wonderful, doesn't it? And you can use that to warm up any of your violets at any time. Now we have that. We have to go back in and halftone and reset our lights. So we know where some of the real light part of our flower is. Going to be right up here. Now we have to reset our lights here and pull down here like that. But let's try not to eliminate all of that violet tone, because that's real pretty under there. Maybe I'll just hit that just one more time with some violet, some light violet here, because that's really pretty underneath there as well. That's a nice little different there. And we'll put that light edge of the white up in there. There, like that. Let's get that nice light here, leaving a little bit of yellow into the inside. These come together here. Little movement, little petal movements, little petals coming into the center there. See, I just used those little corner of that brush. This is my 6, and just a little corner of my 6, or a 4. Little color corner of the 4, like I was using earlier. That works, because then it'll look plastic. But I like that warm and cool plane of the colors on that rose there. So that's going pretty nice. Let's go over and work some of the tones on this other one. And again, on this one we won't do quite as much, but and tone this one down here a bit. And we want to keep the petals themselves a little bit more simplistic. The two main flowers here are pretty much done. I should probably, before I do that, let's go over a little cool. Notice I constantly redo the tones here and stuff. Everything you do is going to work. It all works. All these tones work on this. Notice how many times and different tones I put on these flowers, and the more tones I put on them, the prettier they become. Okay, so, and why? Because especially the whites, they carry the colors of the composition. See? Let's drop in a little light. We got to let that die down because it's got to go underneath that other one. So that was a bit of a mistake there. We shouldn't go that light. But that whole petal looked a little flat because it didn't have enough light on it over there. What it does is just lifts and energizes that rose. We can use that to kind of clean up the edges of this one here, this petal. And see, that just gives you nice found edges there. We should, though, but see, now I've got this dark channel right in here, and that is something that, I notice a lot of painters make a mistake, and if I don't catch it right away when I see it, I will forget about it and leave it. And so what I like to do is just take a little bit of yellow and yellow-green here, just a different kind of green, model it all onto my brush like this, and just push some of that around in there, and that just breaks up, and then we'll set some of it in with some of our darker green here. But what that does is that just sets some green movement in there, and the green movement here, and I can also reset that at burnt sienna stem. So a little bit of burnt sienna on the edge here, going back and forth like that is beautiful as well. And set some, ideas of burnt sienna down in there. Some ideas of burnt sienna coming here. That just adds to it. But the thing is, don't leave it all dark. It'll look like a dark little cavern between the two, and you don't want to do that. So I looked at, especially my center of interest flowers, is do I have a nice transition from a shadow out here to a light, from a shadow out here to a light? Do I need to come in with any more little definitive little shadows in deep like this and pull out just a bit and see what that does? See that little bit more contrast, just all of a sudden just pops that, you can put a little bit right in here like this, and that just pops that flower. But then you got to soften it with a halftone. So reach up here, add a little bit of light to that, and lighten that up a bit like that. We'll just lighten that up just a touch like that. We'll drop in a halftone. Then we got to head to the light. So we'll drop in, and this is where we talk about transitional halftone. So it's going to take a couple of times to get this transitioned right out there to the light, and right up finally up here to your white that's right up here. And we'll come back and reset those in just a bit here, and we'll set this other halftone in right in there. And so all of a sudden that little dark we did is set into that flower, and it's adding so much interest right in there. How much of that do you do? That's your call as the artist. That's contrast, and that's your call as the artist. But the halftone technique allows you to, on any painting, even a casual painting, to come back in and add some of those little bits of dimension to the flower. That's really quite nice. Younger petals are always in the center of the rose. The middle-sized petals, the juvenile petals, are into around the bowl, and then the adult petals are to the outside. Now, what do I mean by that? The larger petal, see the arch of the petal here, that's a larger, full adult petal that's falling away. It's getting heavy and it's falling away. The arch of the inside petals here is smaller because that's the smaller petal, and the arch of the bowl petals here is small, is in between this one, this one, this one. That's what makes a rose. So a lot of times what I do when I'm freehanding roses is I'll set the outside petal, the inside petals, and then make the bowl petals right in between the arches there, and that sets it all up. Okay, thanks very much for joining me. I had a great time painting with you. I hope you enjoy a presentation of paintings this way. I want to do more of them in the Art of Painting series with you, where we don't follow the exact instructions, where I want to paint right. I want you to paint right along with me, put me on pause, and just like we're in the classes and we're painting together, just like we're sitting down here and we're painting together, and you're just following right along with what I'm saying, what I'm suggesting, and give it a try. As always, you can drop me an email at jansenartstudio@aol.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions with you. Visit me on Facebook or some of our other sites. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Sometimes you write questions. It takes me a little while to get to them all and everything, but I'll be happy to help you along the way. Okay? Till next time, thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you on some of our other Art of Painting series and some of our freehand painting like this. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.